Hey, I'm Stone Cold Steve Austin. What? Stone Cold Steve Austin, and this is what I did last week. Another casual week where I didn't do a whole lot, but I did spend some time in Mythic Plus dungeons. I was able to get my rating from 2398 to 2444, so an increase of 46. I timed a few dungeons, including an 8 Dawnbreaker in Mists, as well as a 10 Mists. And then I did not time 3 different 10 keys, so a Dawnbreaker, which was over by like 30 seconds, which sucked, another 10 from Mists, and then an Arakara, which was actually bugged and really frustrating. With this dungeon specifically, when we entered in, the wall that you see before you start the Mythic Plus, that was up, and we didn't really think much of it, so we just put the key in and then started. It wasn't until after the first boss where I realized that I didn't have a timer at all. I didn't see any progress for the dungeon. So I asked a group and they also did not have one, and so we were kind of like, well, hopefully this works. The tank was my guild leader who's done this plenty of times, knows what he needs to pull to 100% the trash. We killed the last boss and then nothing happened. We killed some more trash packs and then nothing happened. So we didn't get any credit for that at all. There was no loot, there was no +1 dungeon for our vault. So in essence, we just wasted however long that was, which was really, really annoying. In those dungeons though, I was trying out the new meta for Fury Warriors, which was to use the other, I think it's Mountain Thane. I'm actually really enjoying that spec. Use Thunderclap a lot, and it also refreshes the amount of whirlwind stacks that you have to hit other people. It took me a few dungeons to kind of get into the groove of things and kind of figure it all out, but I really do like this a lot more than the other spec. The only downside is that my single target is definitely lesser than it was before. I feel like the Slayer spec was pretty good on trash and then pretty good on bosses as well. My goal this week and moving forward is just to continue doing any 9s that I haven't done yet. I think there's a few dungeons that I haven't timed a 9 on, and then otherwise just work on 10s as much as I can. With Season 2 seemingly starting in January, I'd like to get all of the portals unlocked before then, and then once I do that, I'll probably just stick to doing anywhere between 1 to 4 runs just every week for the gear. Speaking of gear upgrades, my warrior got 2 more item levels, so we started at 622.5 and is ending it at 624.5. My vault just had one good piece, which was a mythic track helm that I ended up catalyzing and turning it into a tier piece, which replaced my heroic tier piece. This week as well, I was able to get enough crests to make the crafted item thingy to go up to 636. So I recrafted my 619 weapon to a 636, and that alone bumped me up 2 item levels. One thing I did this week is that I disabled all of my add-ons on my warrior just to see what I can live without. It was hard not to notice the fact that my FPS was dropping to somewhere in like the mid to high teens in raid, and my loading screens just took forever. Like getting into the game would take probably like 30 to 60 seconds every time. So I wanted to see 1, what is actually taking up all that space, but also 2, what do I not really need? So I spent some time reorganizing my UI with the default Blizzard stuff just to kind of get it as close to what I had as possible. I'm not going to go too detailed into it in case I don't end up keeping it, but it kind of looks about the same, so we'll deal with it. There were a few add-ons that I pretty much instantly turned back on. That was Scrap, because it makes it so much easier to vendor. TomTom, because I use that almost every single day for achievement-related stuff. And Weak Auras. I could not live without that because there are certain things that I need to track on my warrior that I'm not just going to keep looking at my buff bar for. But I was happy to see that when I went into a raid with Weak Auras on, it wasn't Weak Auras that was causing my FPS to drop, so that is kind of nice to know. I'm probably going to spend a few weeks playing like this, seeing how I like it, seeing what I really can't live without, and then re-enabling stuff as needed or in a month. Apart from that, I did some time walking dungeons. I did one on my warrior just for the weekly quest. I did one on my hunter, which I saw only gave 200 badges for the weekly quest, so I was like, that's not worth it. I'm not going to keep doing that. And then I did a lot of leveling on my Earthen Paladin, which is close to getting level 50, so hopefully I'll get that this week, and I'll finish off the last quest-related achievement for War Within. But time walking questing is just so fast right now. It is insane. But then the big thing from last week was the 30th anniversary of Warcraft, the 20th for WoW itself. They announced that 11.0.7 comes out on December 17th. I know a little bit about this patch so far. I hear that there's no flying for 6 weeks, but I also hear that the island is very small and it's not going to really be that big of a deal. But I still don't like it because if it's not going to be a big deal, then why is it a thing to turn off flying? I really don't like when Blizzard gives us flying, they take it away. Gives us flying, they take it away. So I'm hoping that's not a continuous trend that they restart with this expansion because it's just so frustrating. They also announced 11.1 coming out next year, which has a goblin theme to it. I'm not really a fan of goblins and their architecture. I think after the mud huts that orcs and trolls have, it's my least favorite in the game. And overall, my response to hearing everything they were talking about with that patch was just not very excited. I just am not really looking forward to anything with this next patch, so I'm kind of down on it, to be honest. I saw that there was a Horrific Visions revisit, which I just think is absolutely terrible. I've seen a lot of people saying that it was great content, it just sucked that it had to be locked behind the upgrades for your legendary. And I don't know what game they were playing, but Horrific Visions are amongst the worst content in the game for me. They announced there's this new fast ground mount thing that they're doing, which I'm curious how that will look and feel. I think it'd be cool to have an upgrade to ground mounts similar to how we do with flying. I'm not really sure how like the whole drifting and stuff will work, but I guess we'll see when that comes out. For the Season 2 dungeons that they announced, I'm not, again, really excited. I don't know why they have such a love for BFA dungeons specifically in the last few seasons. I'm not particularly fond of Shadowlands either, and I just wish they would expand to other areas of the game. And then the big announcement was player housing, which I personally, again, I'm not very excited for. I don't care for it. I know this has been a long requested feature from the player base, and that's cool. I'm glad everyone's getting what hopefully they want. It's just personally for me not really something that I'm at the moment very interested in or excited about. I don't see the appeal really. Someone kind of related it to transmog, which made me understand it a bit more, but just overall, I don't know, I'm not really all that keen on it. But after that event, I kind of just left feeling, okay, I guess, about the game. I obviously need to play it to see how I actually feel about it, but so far I'm not stoked about it coming out. So we'll see what it looks like when it comes out in January. Moving into achievements that I got this week, I started at 42,005 and I'm ending at 35 higher, so 42,040. There were a few achievements that I didn't record, but the main two ones that I got were It's Not a Tumor, which is to burst 1,000 tumors in corrupted zones. This is required for the BFA meta achievement, so knocked one out there. And then I got the Crate Insurance Agent achievement, which is to hand in 6 of these secret crates for the anniversary event. There's one more after this to hand in 11, so still working on that. Achievement gains have definitely slowed down in the last couple of weeks, so I'm hoping to start getting a little bit more throughout the coming weeks. For mounts this week, there were a couple that I got, but just really quick, I was doing Sanctum of Domination on Mythic this week, adding it to the mount run rotation. On Friday, I posted a video that people really seem to be enjoying, explaining how to solo this on Mythic. So if you want to know how to do that, make sure to click on the video that's on the top right now or in the description box for a chance at 2 different mounts, as well as a legendary bow, which in that video I actually got, which was exciting. But the 2 mounts that I did get were related to the Warcraft 30th Twitch drop stuff. There was the Blackrock Warsaber, as well as the Kaldurai Warwolf. Neither of these mounts are really exciting, but +2 to my mount collection. In other news, another game celebrating its 20th anniversary this past week is Half-Life 2. Alongside WoW, that is one of my favorite games of all time, and Valve released a 2-hour documentary talking about the creation of it and all the stuff that went on behind the scenes. I watched that this past weekend and I was just in love. I did not want that video to end. Half-Life 2 was revolutionary for its time for how incredible the physics and the graphics were. They were saying in the documentary they spent 9 months working on getting the eyes of the characters to work human-like. And Half-Life 2 is arguably one of the most influential games of all time, simply because it pushed Steam onto everyone. You could not play this game without Steam, which was a giant point of contention back in the day. And now Steam is used by every gamer everywhere. One of my favorite memories with this game is that when it came out, I did not have a good computer at all, and I had a hard time running this game. Very early on in the game, before you've even had a chance to fight anything, you get a loading screen, and this loading screen I could not get past. I'd be there for minutes waiting for it to finish loading, and it never did. I would try restarting the game, reinstalling the game, restarting my computer. None of it worked. And one day I was just so stubborn and so angry that I was looking at that loading screen. I was like, you know what? No, computer, you're going to load this game, and I don't care if it takes the rest of my life. I'm not turning off this computer or closing this game until this thing loads. So while it was loading, I went to go watch some TV in my room. And it was somewhere between 30 to 45 minutes later, I heard sound. The level had loaded in that time. I couldn't believe that I beat the loading screen boss and I could finally play the game. And that would not be the only loading screen that took that long to load, but now that I knew the trick, I didn't care how long I had to wait, I was going to play that game, and I did. Also, because Counter-Strike Source came out with it, I remember spending at least the first hour just hitting bodies on the ground because I could not believe that it was reacting to what I was doing. I was just used to T-poses and people falling over, not actual ragdoll physics. It was mind-blowing for me at the time. Apart from games, there was some music I was listening to. There's an English prog rock band called Amplifier that I've been a big fan of for years. I somehow missed a handful of albums that they've released over the years, so I went back and listened to all of those, and I just forgot how amazing this band is. I just wanted to shout them out in case you're looking for something new to listen to. If I were to recommend a personal favorite, since we're going about the 20-year anniversary stuff right now, their debut album from 2004, self-titled Amplifier, and one of my favorite songs on there is Post-Acid Youth. For movies, I only watched a couple this past week, starting with A Christmas Story Christmas. This is the 20 years later sequel to A Christmas Story that I watched the week before. I went into this thinking it was going to be a not great movie because I didn't like the first one at all, and it was legitimately incredible. I laughed so many times. It was so funny and so good. The snowball fight, oh my god, I died laughing. And then I also watched A Kiss on Candy Cane Lane. This is about an author who wrote about one of her ex-boyfriends. She goes back to town, they bump into each other, and the typical stuff ensues. I didn't really like it at all, so that's pretty much it. But that's everything that I wanted to talk about this week. Let me know what's going on in your week. What are you up to in game? What are you up to in life? What other games are you playing? What movies are you watching? What music are you into? If you're already subscribed to this channel, thank you so much. I appreciate you. You're awesome. If you haven't yet subscribed, I'd appreciate it if you could at least consider it because I'm trying to get to 100K and that would really help. Thanks for watching. Have yourselves a terrific week. Have yourselves a terrific week and I'll talk to you next week. Bye.